I'm the flatratemaster, and today we're going to talk about, well, partial repairs are the worst. What I mean by that is a car comes in, check engine light or something like that is on. You fix that issue, but there's another underlying issue or another issue entirely, and it just kind of sucks. So I'm going to give some examples. You get a car coming in, stalling. Okay, pull codes, got a check engine light for a crank sensor. Pull out the scope, you scope the sensor, you see it's dropping out, but you never replicate the complaint. You try and try, can't get it to replicate, so you go ahead and call a crank sensor. And then as you're backing it out, it stalls on you. Been there, done that, including verifying that the crank sensor was fixed, that the signal was no longer crappy, poor, whatever, and you have a bad fuel pump. Been there, done that. It sucks for everybody involved. The shop, the customer, sucks for you. Depending on how the shop deals with it, whether they eat the crank sensor, whether they try to upsell the fuel pump, knowing you had a crank sensor problem, it just wasn't the main problem. And that's something that just happens to fall into the category of, well, auto repair is sometimes you just kind of get screwed like that. It just sucks. Give you another example. Cherokee 3.6 came in, dead misfire. You pull it in, customer complaint is vibration, and it's just running like dog crap. The engine's vibrating, doing what it does when it's got a dead misfire. You do everything right. You wind up pulling the intake off, pulling the coil out, finding the coil is soaked in oil because the valve covers are leaking. You do all that stuff, and so you upsell coils and plugs and, valve covers, all the good stuff, get it all back together. The misfire is fixed. You knew you had a misfire. You go to test drive it, and you've got a wicked vibration. Some Jeeps have a problem where the flange on the transmission, the nut actually works loose, and it starts flopping. Now, maybe that would have been caught on a visual inspection of the whole vehicle, but you couldn't test drive it because of the dead misfire. So you have to go back and upsell the fix for that, which the correct fix is, a new flange, a new nut, Loctite it, stake it, all that. That kind of stuff just sucks. Suck. For the technician shop again. And you always wind up going back and forth on that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter if you did your job right. Some people might have said, on those two applications, I didn't do my job right because could not replicate it. On the Hyundai, some people, well, you didn't replicate the complaint. You're right. It didn't replicate it on a test drive. It didn't replicate it on sitting there idling. I had a known problem. The Cherokee, perfect example. Could not test drive it. Dead misfire. Continue to drive it on a dead misfire is just going to cook the cats. And who would have thought the drive shaft would be loose? That's kind of some of the stuff you're going to run into as a technician is you don't always have all the information you need. You don't always have all of the facts right. You don't always have the ability to do some of the testing that you need to. Test driving a vehicle when the complaint is vibration and you crank it up and it's got a wicked vibration from a misfire. The misfire was a new problem the customer thought was the old problem when he had a vibration while driving. Unfortunately, the customer in that case assumed that the vibration was related to the misfire, and it just happened to get really bad really fast. The fix on the Cherokee, unfortunately, was not the correct repair simply because of parts availability. I had to Loctite it and restake the nut. I actually restake it on both sides on that vehicle anytime I do that repair. And the vibration was fixed. There was no other damage to the transmission, but it's a part of this industry is you just have to deal with, you're not always going to be 100%. You can be 100% on one complaint, but there may be an evolved complaint with something else. It's just something to keep in mind. it's going to happen. You're going to have a situation where you're not going to fix it completely and have to go back to the customer. It is what it is. So as always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.